Men, this will sting for a second. A lot of what looks like spark in post-divorce dating isn't chemistry, it's anesthesia. And if you don't know the difference, you'll volunteer to be the painkiller and wonder why you got tossed when the numbness wears off. Beat tonight. I'm going to give you the lens to see it. Not to judge, to protect your time, your heart, and your future. Quick note before we dive in. We're discussing behaviors and unhealthy dynamics, not generalizing to everyone. Use this to spot patterns, set boundaries, and choose healthy relationships. Here's why this matters. In that 35 to 50 window, most of you are working full-time, rebuilding, maybe co-parenting. You've got less margin for chaos. The wrong relationship here doesn't just hurt. It derails your routines, bleeds your finances, stresses your kids, and delays the life you're trying to build. The right relationship. It's gas for your engine, calm, consistent, compounding, and the difference shows up in the first 30 to 90 days if you know where to look. Listen, after divorce, there's a cycle I call the grief gap. Legally over does not equal emotionally complete. People can be months or years apart in their recovery, even if the paperwork says done. Add in identity vacuum going from wife to single overnight, and the pull of validation gets intense. The brain loves a quick hit of novelty. Biology floods the body with dopamine during new attraction, oxytocin after intimacy, and adrenaline during uncertainty. That cocktail feels like connection but often masks unresolved grief. Translation: the nervous system is loud. The wisdom is quiet. If you're not careful, you become the bridge grate to walk on, not meant to stay on. So how do you tell who's ready versus who's rebounding without playing detective or writing essays in the group chat? Watch patterns, not promises. Patterns don't lie. Start with a resume rush. Some partners come out of divorce like they're interviewing candidates for a life they wanted 10 years ago. It'll sound organized non-negotiables, I don't have time to waste, and there's nothing wrong with clarity. But notice the speed, plans for holidays in the first month, talk of meeting kids or merging schedules before you've seen each other have a bad week. There's a difference between standards and speed of intimacy. Standards are about the who. Speed is about control. The resume rush often comes from anxiety, not readiness. You'll feel pressure to sign up for a long-term package before you've sampled the product in real life. Calm readiness lets the bond prove itself through consistency, conflict, and boring Tuesdays. Here's where most men get blindsided. The opposite pattern feels romantic too, the anti-ex mirage. She's not just dating, she's counter-dating. My ex never listened, so I love how attentive you are. He worked too much. I want someone who prioritizes us. Now, compliments are great, but if every compliment is really an indictment of the last guy, you're playing a role to correction. And corrections end when the pendulum swings back to center. People who define their future by their past end up recreating their past in a different costume. If you notice that you're more of an antidote than a man, slow down. You don't want to be the reaction to a previous story. You want to be the next chapter. Let me paint a picture. Mark, 41, finance guy, recently out of a long relationship, meets Sarah, 39, a designer, divorced 9 months. First month is a movie, playlists, homemade dinners, a weekend upstate. She keeps saying, it's crazy how easy this is compared to before. There's constant contrast. Mark is tidy. Mark remembers small details. Mark is nothing like him. Then Sarah's ex gets a promotion and offers to adjust child support. Court dates pop up. Family voices get loud. Suddenly, Mark feels her energy change. She says, I need space. And when he asks what shifted, she answers, I realized I'm still angry. She wasn't lying when she adored him. She just hadn't built a new identity yet. She used Mark as presence to feel what wasn't there before. When he entered the narrative, the mirage evaporated. Another pattern that looks sweet but drains you is Island and Lighthouse. Island says, I'm independent. I need my space. Lighthouse says, don't drift too far. Keep shining for me. It's pull-push. Hot 1 week, cool the next. Calls you in when lonely, pushes you out when emotions get dense. Men, understand. Intermittent reinforcement is addictive. Your brain gets hooked on the variable reward. That variable reward can be a trauma echo, not soulmates. Consistency in the early stage isn't boring. It's the only way to tell if you're building or performing. If you're always waiting for the next green light, you're not in a relationship. You're in a casino. Occasionally, you'll meet social proof ping pong. great photos, lots of starting over quotes, frequent status updates about new beginnings, a parade of stories that look suspiciously like showcase dating. You'll be invited into the highlight reel before you're invited into the day-to-day. This isn't evil, but validation-heavy dating often signals a shaky foundation. She might be genuinely fun and kind and still drawn to public approval, but public approval is a hungry beast. It rarely makes room for private repair. When anxiety hits, she'll get louder online and quieter with you. If you feel like you're performing for an audience, you probably are. Then there's Fix Me Project. This one is subtle and dangerous. It's not gold digging. It's roll digging. Can you help me with the move? My car's in the shop. Could you pick me up from work? My ex used to do the taxes. Can you take a look? You're a competent man. You like to help. She might openly admire your problem solving, but if you become utility before intimacy, you'll be cast as the handyman husband convenient, not chosen. Ready partners handle their essentials and invite you in slowly. Rebound dynamics rush to outsource responsibility because relationships are a quick way to rebalance life. That's not a partnership. That's an arrangement. There's also the capsule weekend romance. It feels adult, classy, great dinners, getaways, long cuddles on Saturday, then silenced Monday to Thursday. Crazy week. You know how it is. Some of this is normal with co-parenting or demanding work. But if weekday realities, stress, chores, kids, ex, logistics never touch your relationship, you aren't taking her life. You're in a capsule she visits. Real readiness means some integration. Ready partners let you see their Tuesday. Now, for balance, meet the quiet mourner. This is what healthy often looks like after divorce. She's calm, a little muted at first, not trying to lock you in or push you away. She takes a beat to reply, not because she's playing games, but because her life is full. She speaks about her ex with neutral language, no venom, no praise. She apologizes when she misses a call and doesn't over-explain. She wants to meet your friends, but doesn't rush your kids. It might feel less dramatic than you're used to. That quiet, that's the sound of stability. Which brings us to the part nobody tells you. Rebound relationships aren't automatically doomed. Research suggests they can be stable if the person has rebuilt their self-concept and completed key grief tasks. The variable isn't time since divorce. It's work since divorce. Time passing doesn't heal. Time with intention does. You're not measuring months, you're measuring momentum and maturity. Let's make this practical with a quick translation block you can use on dates. They say, my marriage was over years before the paperwork, could mean I've justified moving on quickly, but some threads are still attached. Verify by, ask about timeline, from separation to now. What closure rituals they did. Whether they took a period of voluntary solitude, any therapy or groups. Respond with, I like our connection, let's build this slowly for a couple months and see how we handle real-life stress. Notice that response. It's not a test, it's a pace. Dating at the pace of trust is your superpower, and it filters out rebound dynamics without drama. Second, micro-story. Ravi, 46, consultant, father of two, meets Elena, 44. Recently divorced teacher, she's warm, grounded, and wildly appreciative. First few weeks, she's asking for small favors. Move a bookshelf, fix a cabinet, quick ride to the airport, nothing huge. He loves being useful. Then comes the big favor dog sit for a week while she and her sister go on a retreat. He sees yes. That week, he realizes he's logged 10 hours of errands and perhaps 6 hours of actual connection. He brings it up. She gets defensive. This is what partnership is. He replies, I want partnership. I don't want to become your logistics manager. She pauses, teary, admits she's been overwhelmed since the divorce. They reset. She starts hiring help for tasks and leaves space for dates that are about them. It could have gone the other way. The difference was his boundary. Men, boundaries are not walls. They're speed limits. They protect both passengers. 2 lines you can copy now. I like you, and I'm building something steady. If you need speed to feel safe, we're probably not a match. I don't do triangles. If your ex is still in our conversations, let's pause until that's fully resolved. Hold that thought because the real test shows up when conflict arrives. In a rebound dynamic, conflict either proves you're unsafe or proves they're unhealed. You'll get punishment silence, escalation, or scorekeeping about the ex. This is why I left. In Ready dynamics, conflict is feedback, not a verdict. She can say, "That stung. Can we talk tonight?" She manages her edges and respects yours. That's the whole ball game. Here's a second translation block that saves hours. They say, "I'm not looking for anything serious, but I do want consistency." Could mean, "I want the emotional benefits without accountability," or "I'm warming up at my pace." Verify by, ask what consistency means, frequency of dates, exclusivity, intimacy boundaries, meeting friends, family. Respond with, "Clarity is attractive to me. I date at the pace of trust, weekly plans." Clean boundaries, sober decisions. Another sneaky pattern, sympathy bonding. Divorce stories can be heavy. Some partners share it all on date to every betrayal, every court's detail. You'll feel protective, especially if you've endured your own. But if the bond forms primarily through shared pain, it will need pain to feel alive. Healthy, ready partners share in chapters with context and leave space for lightness. You don't need to be her therapist, be her man. If your dates feel like depositions, step back. Now, why do these patterns show up so consistently? It's not character. It's chemistry and context. The nervous system loves predictability after chaos. So people either chase control rushing milestones or chase relief magical weekends. Some fall into echoing attachment tendencies. Anxious styles push for closeness. Avoidant styles keep distance. Fearful, avoidant does both. Social factors add pressure. Friends cheering, "Get back out there." Apps gamifying attention. Family comparing time. And children complicate bandwidth. Which is how? None of this makes anyone a villain, but it does mean your job is to see the system, not just the smile. Here's the third translation block when co-parenting is present. They say, "My ex and I are great friends. We talk a lot for the kids." Could mean we co-parent well, or we're still emotionally entangled. Verify by, ask about boundaries, frequency, topics. Do they vent about the ex to you? Do they meet one-on-one socially? Respond with, "I respect good co-parenting. I also need a lane that's just us, no triangle." Now, notice what happens next. Once you start seeing patterns, you might get cynical. Don't. There are plenty of ready partners in this age range, often more so because they've done the work. They'll talk about what they could have done better in the marriage, not just what went wrong. They'll have routines, hobbies, friendships that predate you. They'll say no to you kindly when their bandwidth is low. They won't float toward you only when Friday loneliness hits. It won't feel like a sprint. It'll feel like a good hike, steady, breathable, scenic. Let's make this practical with a quick checklist you can use this week. Think of it as you're ready versus rebound field kit. Ask for a simple timeline, separation date, legal divorce date, any time they spent intentionally single. Listen for growth, not just gossip. Set a 90-day pace. No major financial entanglements. No meeting kids until you've seen consistent behavior. No planning trips you can't cancel. Observe weekday integration. Do you talk about stressors, routines, and real life, or only live in weekend bubbles? Sample conflict. Bring up one small boundary and watch the repair process. Can they hear you without a courtroom speech? Use the 2 column nose test. Say no twice in a month to reasonable requests. See if respect, resist, or resentment spikes. Check for X boundaries. How often? What topics? Are there clean handoffs or messy overlaps? Do a sober check-in. After a solid date, ask for a debrief call. The next day, clarity likes daylight. You'll notice none of this requires detective work. It requires patience and self-respect. And you'll notice this too. Ready partners love these boundaries because it makes them feel safe, not scrutinized. Let me give you a final story that shows what ready can look like. Andre, 39, high school coach, meets Maya, 42, nurse, divorced 2 years. On their third date, he says, "I'm attracted. I'm also cautious. I want to set a slow pace." She smiles, "Same. I did a year of therapy after the divorce. I want a real bond, not a distraction." They do Tuesdays at a coffee shop for a month before any weekends away. When Andre has a family emergency, Maya drops off a casserole and leaves a note. No need to text back. Take care of your people. No drama, just care. A month later, they have their first friction. He cancels last minute. She says it stung. He apologizes. They plan a do-over. Quiet repair. 6 months in, she meets his sister. 8 months in, he meets her best friend. Boring. That's what you say before you've had peace. Healthy feels steady. It doesn't shout, it repeats. Men, if you find yourself in a dynamic that triggers you to chase, to fix, or to perform, step back and ask one question. What job am I doing here? Am I the anesthetic? The handyman? The trophy? The opposite of X? Or the partner? Partners build, everything else burns. Here's a simple way to hold your line when emotions run hot. Keep these phrases in your notes app. I date at the pace of trust. Weekly consistency, clean boundaries, and decisions we can stand by in daylight. I enjoy you, and I'm not rushing this. If we're aligned, time is our ally, not our enemy. Say it calmly, early, and then live it. People believe behavior over poetry. If you feel pressure around kids meeting them too soon, being asked to discipline sleepovers while they're home, remember, this isn't about morality, it's about safety. Children do not need another short-term adult in their ecosystem. A ready partner knows this. If you're getting nudged to blur lines, that's your cue to anchor. You can still be warm and clear. Your kids come first. And I respect that. I don't meet children until we've built something durable. Let's revisit in a few months. If they make that a deal breaker, they did you a favor. A quick word on intimacy. There's no universal timeline, but the context matters. In rebound dynamics, intimacy often arrives as relief. In ready dynamics, it arrives as reinforcement. Ask yourself after, did we get closer in our everyday actions? Or did we just bond in the moment? Are plans clearer? Or is there more mystery? If the relationship only feels good right after intimacy, that's a signal, not a sentence. Adjust pace. See what remains. Some of you will ask, how long should she be divorced before I take it seriously? Wrong question. Ask, what have you learned? Who are you without a partner? How do you repair when you misstep? Ready doesn't speed up because you're a good guy. Ready stays at the pace of reality. And you must do the same. There's a psychological reason your calm boundaries work. After chaotic endings, nervous systems recalibrate to steady signals. When you consistently set the tempo check-ins, clear plans, respectful knows you become a regulator, not a rescuer. Rescuers get exhausted, regulators build trust, and people who aren't ready will self-select out because you're not giving them the volatility that keeps their patterns alive. Remember that early surge of attention we talked about. Here's how it flips. In rebound dynamics, the early surge becomes maintenance detriment, expected to keep delivering novelty. In ready dynamics, the early spark becomes compounding interest, small axe stack, and create a feeling of home. You don't have to audition for home. You show up as you consistently. That is the audition. If you're already in something and you suspect rebound, don't drag it out with a million conversations. Make one clear request, set a timeline, and watch behavior. I care about you, and I need steady effort in the weekday reality, clean X boundaries, and shared pace. Let's check in 4 weeks and see if we're aligned. Then watch. Words are free, effort is expensive, by what they spend on. Now, identity reframe. You are not a bandage, you're a builder. Builders don't rush to cover holes. They reinforce foundations. You are not the opposite of her ex. You're the full version of yourself, capable of love that's calm, present, and honest. Any dynamic that asks you to shrink, sprint, or split your values isn't a match, it's a lesson. Learn it quickly. Ultimatum to yourself, not to her. If it costs me my peace, my priorities, or my purpose, I don't buy it. If it asks me to hide, I don't wear it. If it won't walk at the pace of trust, I won't run. You want a ready partner? Be a ready partner. Handle your own past cleanly. Keep your life tidy. Sleep, money, friends, fitness. Communicate early. Practice repair. And do not let loneliness pick your timeline. Loneliness is loud and lazy. It says yes to anyone. Standards are quiet and powerful. They say yes to someone. One last reminder for the good men listening. It's not your job to diagnose or rescue. It's your job to observe and decide. The person in front of you might be incredible and still not ready for you. That's not rejection. That's alignment. You're not late. You're precise. If this hit home, subscribe now. We'll keep building your playbook calm, sharp, and real so. You never mistake anesthesia for connection again. You deserve a relationship that feels like exhale. Tap subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Lower, stay steady,